The reality of middle-class America. Reality of the future for middle-class America. Many are disconnected from reality and the future of the United States economy. In a current market of massive hyperinflation, increased cost of living, housing, stagnant wages, etc., what does the future hold? I've always heard people say, the market will come down eventually. It always has. Things will get better. I am here to tell you that past events don't necessarily determine the future. Yes, historical events can be a good indicator for future possibility. But we are in a unique time. I haven't been on this earth very long, but I can tell you that in these past 3 years, things have changed in our world drastically. I make decent money. A few years ago I'd be considered middle, upper class. Now, I'm stuck renting a one-bedroom apartment paying more in rent and other expenses than almost everyone I know with a mortgage. It's sad. It's soul-crushing. It's maddening. Seeing greed corrupt the human mind and plague our society like a disease. Downvote this all you want or call me a FUD, but I am here to give you 2 realities in the next 1020 years. 1. The divide between socioeconomic classes will continue to widen to the point where homeless, crime, poverty will run rampant. 2. Something catastrophic will happen, such as corporations will pay their employees a living wage, or there will be an increase in housing inventory or lowered cost of living. If you can't see that the average American is struggling every single day to make ends meet, then you are sitting on the high horse of privilege. Enjoy it while it lasts. Because your kids won't if you don't play your cards right. I see it because I live it every day. The world around us is crumbling. Open your eyes. Why is it in the past 3 years we have seen the greatest influx in millionaires and billionaires in history? Yet the average middle-class American is struggling. Anyways, I'm betting on 1. Because it's already happening before our very eyes. Remember, you will own nothing and be happy. There's working class and capitalist class. If you have to work to make a living, you are working class. This entire premise of, it will get better, is BS. I'm almost 40. It has only ever gotten worse my entire life. Owning a vehicle has become so expensive. It's going to be the difference maker for a lot of people on how poor they will be. It's unfortunate, and there are many out there who are going to be unwilling to accept this. They will drown themselves with vehicle payments and debt. The end result of the current will be a mashup of the French Revolution and the post-World War II hunt for the Nazis. You are right, unless the predicted ocean current collapse happens in the next few years. At which point, being rich won't help either. There is no middle class. There never was. I make about $60K a year, no debt, no credit cards, borrowed almost nothing on my house, so my payment is low. Thankfully I don't pay rent. I did everything right. I am still struggling. Groceries, gas, taxes on my house, everything's gone up 30% or more. My payment on my house has gone up by nearly $250 a month since COVID. Utility company can up and decide they are going to charge 28% more for the same amount of electricity. The ham I bought for $4.50 last week is now $6.50 IM because slowly bled dry. There is no middle class in Europe or America or Australia or Asia no more. Regardless of the history you subscribe to, it's always been the controllers v. peasants. The only difference today is that it's disguised within corporations and governments. Currently, they're going to cause as much chaos as possible through inflation and fear-based mind control. That'll cause mass confusion and division. When prices are so high, the masses will beg to be saved by Daddy Government, who will utilize this opportunity to unleash the digital currency and social credit. Depending on where you live, house scarcity is going to take about 50 years or so to self-correct. Unfortunately, climate change is also going to displace a lot of folks no matter where you live. And crumbling infrastructure will also ruin certain housing stock when access to clean water goes away and isn't fixed. Antitrust enforcement and dismantling of any sort of welfare state that's been happening since the 1970s means that the outlook is going to be bleak, especially for those of us who grew up in places like Southern California and are suddenly priced out and have to find someplace else to go. Something the 3 generations before me didn't have to do, even though I'm the educated and a high earner. There really is no middle class. There was a time when being middle class meant you lived in a home with a staff. The middle class just doesn't exist. I think it's worse than most people realize. Our economy is basically the equivalent of the emperor's new clothes. We're never going to be able to pay off the national debt, which is rising every year because the government really doesn't know what it spends its money on. And what they could audit is obfuscated purposefully so that nobody can see where the money is going. Add in the pure BS that is the stock market, where CEOs do nothing but artificially inflate the value of stock with no regard to the actual health of the company nor its actual value. This is especially bad in companies with CEOs that use the value of their stock as collateral for borrowing money to fund their lifestyles. Bezos, Musk. I will not bring a child into this mess, no way. I look at poor people having kids like they're lunatics. Middle class doesn't really exist. They're capitalists, bootlickers who keep the rest of us down in exchange for more crumbs from their masters. Workers and capitalists are the only 2 groups. Rent strike and land leeches are done. Work strike and your boss is done, etc. Chaos and misery are part of capitalism's fuel mix. I think a lot of folks on the left mistake these things for signs of some great collapse. But the powers that be are very good about adjusting that fuel mix when they need to. I've lived through many economic seizures from the 70s to now, and this system we live in can cope with a remarkable amount of human suffering and still thrive. That doesn't mean people shouldn't protest or fight back. But right now the left and anti-capitalism forces, especially in the US, are so scattered and ineffective. The fat cats have very little to worry about. OWS did absolutely nothing to Wall Street. For example, not one law was changed. Not one election shifted because of it. The left has largely forgotten how to organize and create real momentum. Many of them encourage people not to vote. Politicians are like, it's 1 banana, Michael. What could it cost? $10. As someone who did play their cards right, I have been educating myself for a long time and knew the divide was coming. This is why I was working 2 jobs since college, even though I had a very good salary with one. I was trying to jump the gap. Bought a nice property away from the cities. Living pretty far under our means. It's going to get worse before it gets better, and now it is not looking good. This could be a decade-long thing. The roaring 20s heading into the Great Depression. But with fentanyl. Find a way to reduce your needs and get away from the population centers. There are plenty of places to go. They just aren't Pinterest quality. Build smaller local in-person communities. Internet friends will do you no good. You have the majority of the middle class already in housing before the rates and prices jumped. So middle management and upwards don't feel the pinch of housing costs. You make $100,000, how come you're renting an apartment with roommates? Because rent on that apartment is $500. Mo in a 2BR house within an hour of the city starts at $600,000 for a fixer-upper. Management doesn't see the problems. We're basically getting ready to enter a modern Victorian era where there's only going to be two classes of people, divided but strong and obvious socio-economic boundaries, and trying to breach them will be a feat of the divines in itself. We're going to end up stumbling back into minimal human rights that the economy can get away with, downgrading to the lowest level without pissing off the UN or the rest of the world. Also, a good reminder to most that read this post and comment: an empire typically only lasts about 250 years on average. American's most recent empire is 236 right now. So we're closing in on the variable range of an empire ending. Prepare for political and socio-economic whiplash, everyone. There's a few places experiencing massive hyperinflation, and the US is not one of them. Agree that housing costs are out of line in many markets. The other, mostly urban, problems listed are mostly due to a lack of political will. The risk of a law and order backlash is fascism. So we need better answers than that. Our ancestors made it through the Depression. Then WW2. We will likely pull out of this. Your idea of hyperinflation is weak. Hyperinflation is the Weimar Republic in Zimbabwe. That is hyperinflation. You could make the required societal changes if you were to unify as a people and tell the leaders that you're going to get what you need. Or else. Or else is hacking off some heads. Actual heads. You're overdue a revolution. Remember, the owner class never cedes any ground that they don't have to. If they are not made to do it, they won't do it of their own volition. You have to force the issue. That's what all the gun jockeys masturbate to the Second Amendment to. Just to chicken out when it matters the most.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Eracast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.